Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new edition of our online interview presentation series. Today, we want to talk and listen, of course, to IsoEnergy and Tim Gabruch, who is the new CEO. Of course, we want to introduce him to our audience. Yeah, welcome and good morning, Tim. Good to see you. Hi to Canada.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jochen. Good to see you. And good afternoon to your part of the world there.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time. You are the new CEO of IsoEnergy, and you are following of Craig Perry, who is pursuing, of course, other stuff in his, I don't know how many companies he's involved with, but this is fantastic. Also, you have a strong background in uranium, of course, which we will talk in a minute on that. And of course, we want to know what's going on. I'm a shareholder of the company. I have to say that upfront, of course, for disclosure reasons. And we look really forward to your presentation, which I will set up now.
Great.
Tim, the floor is yours.
Well, great, Jochen. Yeah, thanks very much. I really appreciate the time you're taking to to talk with IsoEnergy today. So, I'm first of all very excited to be in this seat. It was a great opportunity to come follow in Craig Perry's shoes, who has obviously done a great job building up IsoEnergy over the last number of years, and we're heading into a very exciting time. So let's get into the presentation. Obviously, the typical disclaimers and disclosure rules. I'll let people have a look. There are forward-looking statements in this presentation, so please be aware of that. And I just thought I'd start with a quick market slide, because when we're talking to folks about IsoEnergy and just the space in general, everyone's very interested in what's happening today. And it's obviously been a very exciting time over the last several months in nuclear in general, but in the uranium exploration and development space in particular. So, just very quickly here, but supply demand fundamentals have just been improving quite dramatically over the last few years. And what's incredible to me is post Fukushima, there was such a downturn in the market, but we've really recovered as an industry, even in the absence of Japan really recovering a lot of its reactors. It doesn't have many reactors going right now, but in the last couple of years, we've actually had enough growth in the industry to get demand to the point where we're actually at a higher level than we were pre-Fukushima. So I think that was a really important milestone for the industry. And of course, one of the most important things I think when we're looking at the market is to really focus on the uncovered requirements. And today, uncovered requirements for the utilities that buy our uranium are higher than they typically have been in the past. And so even as early as 2025, which in the uranium space is very near term, utilities are somewhat uncovered. They're almost a third uncovered only 4 years out, and 2/3 uncovered in their contracting as early as 2030. So that's really, really quite a high number historically, and it really speaks to the activity that's ahead in this market. So a couple other things that have been happening really interestingly in the market recently are some of the developers entering the space to buy uranium, and that's just happened in the last few weeks. And it's really incredible. Like the Denisons of the world, the Uranium Energy Corps, Boss Uranium, they've raised a lot of money to buy uranium and hold it as an asset that they believe in. So that's actually changing the market. We've seen some uptick in the market prices, and really this is all in the backs of making adjustments post Fukushima. There's been a lot of curtailments, shutdowns. Not only has Cameco's flagship McArthur River been down for more than 3 years already, which is really incredible if you think about it. But at the same time, Cigar Lake and some Kazakh production is down as a result of COVID restrictions. So, there's been a huge adjustment in supply. And at the same time, you've got mines like ERA's Ranger. This is the Rio Tinto mine in Australia that's been operating for decades. That's just come offline at end of life. And similarly with Orano's Cominac mine in Niger, which has been operating for decades. And those have been trusted and relied on mines for nuclear utilities, and they're gone. So it just speaks to the changing supply portfolio of the industry.
Tim, short question. How important do you rate, let's say, the Biden administration move to green technology to, let's say, respect the climate, the Paris Accord? And also we saw, I think yesterday, or it was this morning even, that the 1-year future price already is up to almost $34 now. And spot price is approaching $31, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think it's been really not just important, but a pleasant surprise the way the Biden administration has been approaching nuclear. Frankly, like obviously they've got a very vested interest in the climate change, and they're very engaged in the climate change discussion, and have very strong goals, very big goals to address climate change, and they've realized that nuclear needs to be a part of that answer. It's not just about renewables. Obviously, wind, solar, all these different energy sources are important, but they've really adopted, or engaged in the nuclear debate and realized that nuclear needs to be part of it. So that's huge. And the other piece that's been important is all this, the talk around ESG investing, around environmental, social governance investing, and how some industries have been adopted as positive ESG investments, and in the past, nuclear maybe not so much. That is changing, and people are recognizing that in this climate discussion, we need nuclear as a strong base load of clean energy, and it is becoming a very seen as a positive ESG investment, which I think is you've really seen that in the way the uranium equities have reacted over the last few months. I think what's really interesting is that lots of these uranium equities have moved up substantially over the last several months, but in the absence even of the uranium price moving until recently. So typically it's been when the uranium price moves, the equities move. But I think it's more on the basis that people really understand the fundamentals are really improving, and the need for nuclear in the climate change narrative. So it's a very important piece. So that's a short but long and attractive discussion on the market. Could go on, that is a bit of my background, so I could go on with that for a long time, but I, really want to shift into talking about IsoEnergy and the company that I've come to lead as the new CEO. What I was impressed with coming into the company just over a month and a half ago is really the approach that these folks have taken. They haven't been around that long, but what they've done is really look at the Athabasca Basin as their focus, and not just the Athabasca Basin, but the eastern portion of the Athabasca Basin, which is, of course, where all the existing high grade mines are, but also the infrastructure, the roads, the electricity that's available to those areas, and it's that area that they focused on looking for new deposits. They put together a great team. Steve Blower is our VP of exploration. He's got enormous not only experience but success in the Athabasca Basin, and he's got a great team of geologists working with him. And the timing was really incredible as well. ISO really went into the basin and aggressively looked at taking on new assets, picking up properties when no one was really there. In the doldrums of this downturn post Fukushima, most of the money had dried up and people had left the basin. But they were taking a long-term approach, recognizing that they believed in the story, and they went and picked up properties, and now they leverage those benefits that the company has in the markets, capital markets, and on the exploration front to really start developing when others were not, and it's really starting to pay off.
Mm-hmm. This is where you make the good deals, right? When you buy cheap.
It's classic corporate development 101. You say buy low, sell high.
Exactly.
Easy to say, but not as easy to do sometimes, because when times are tough, it's hard to make those decisions. So they've done a great job. They started with 5 properties. We are we've been spun out of NexGen. At that time, NexGen provided 5 properties to IsoEnergy, and you can see by the orange on the table here that they've been very aggressive in picking up a lot of additional properties in the eastern part of the Athabasca Basin. So they had a couple of strategic focus. One was to to look at some of the properties that have had mineralized intercepts, but really weren't followed up in because there was a lot of money being put into the basin before Fukushima. And then post Fukushima, when that dried up, people walked away from properties, and some of those, like I said, did have some intercepts, and they really targeted a few of those that they thought had some good potential, and that's obviously paid off. They also started looking at basement hosted type deposits. That was a strategy, because for several years, what people were really focusing on, and for a long time actually, is the unconformity hosted deposits, and that's where the McArthur Rivers, the Cigar Lakes, had a lot of success. Now, NexGen found the Arrow style deposit in the basement hosted type of deposit, and that's what they really want to focus on. That said, where we've had our success and what's become our flagship project is the Hurricane Zone, which we found in the Rock East property that we picked up just a couple of years ago. So that's really become important, and along with that, there's a list here on this slide. I won't get into the details, but there's a lot of other terrific properties that our team's really incredibly excited about, and which we'll also start to spend some time on in the not too distant future.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just worth talking about the Hurricane Zone then for just a couple of minutes. And I know we don't have a ton of time, but where we found this in the Rock East zone, and you can see the star on the map where the Hurricane Zone is. That really just picked up this property back in May of 2018, and it was really as the team was doing some drilling on the Geiger property that year, they decided to take the drill over and do one hole in an area that Steve and the team had really kind of looked at and thought that there was some prospectivity there that hadn't been looked at in the same way. They ended up having some great success on that one hole, 8.5 meters at 1.26%, and they determined that obviously this is somewhere we want to do a lot of work on. So since that time, we've focused a lot of drilling in 2020 on the Hurricane Zone, and had some incredible results. One of the most incredible is this is just a picture of the best core sample that we've gotten to date, and this is hole number 76, and 7.5 meters at almost 39% U3O8 and 3.5% at 74%. So we're talking about ore grades that compete with some of the best that have ever been found in the basin. So yeah.
Tim, short question. Would you say, because it looks to me like also the grades we saw on the slide before, and also what we see here again, those are holes which are mine makers, right?
They are. I mean, they're mine makers. They're company makers. They give us a lot of ability to do some other things as well. Yeah. I mean, we're still in the process of delineating this ore body. Mm-hmm. We have. Coming out of the summer of 2020, obviously we had great results. The company is shifted forever, really. Our share price has changed. Our market capitalization, and yeah, we're not unsensitive to the timing of things, but we are trying to take a measured approach. So we do have plans to go back into the ore body or into the zone and do additional drilling this summer, to really try before we put out a maiden resource, which we haven't yet, to really try to find the boundaries of this and make sure that we properly drill it out and really know what we have before we kind of make that announcement. But yeah, you're right. I mean, these are grades that are not seen anywhere else, really on the planet, and it's something that we are the only junior over the last number of years that's had any kind of success like this in finding a deposit of this substance. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Tim, if I look at those results I just highlighted here with the black lines, I mean 74%, 63%. This is crazy. 57, 62, etc. So is that a problem in the future to mine? Because I could imagine that the radiation is extremely high.
Yeah. I mean, what the issues you have when you have ore bodies like this is radon levels, and that, like, obviously the Cameco, Cigar Lake, McArthur River have dealt with these types of ore grades before, and so yeah, they definitely take a different approach. I mean, the amount of safety and precautions that are taken to mine are significant, but they certainly can be done. I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot of issues with radon. There's just there's airflow. If you're working from underground, if you are an underground mine, with Cigar and McArthur are, they deal with a lot of airflow and making sure that people don't get too close to the ore body. A lot of remote mining methods, things like that, can be adopted. This ore body, so far we don't know exactly how big it is or how we would intend to mine it down the road. As we eventually go down that path. So there's a lot of other ways of doing it. Like right now, I look at other companies around the basin doing some innovative things. Denison's looking at in situ recovery of an ore body that's very, in a lot of ways, very similar on conformity, hosted, very high grade. So that's a type of mining that you don't have to go underground. You don't have to expose people to it. So in a lot of ways, that's very, it's a very safe method of doing it. There's other mining methods that people are looking at, whether it's Orano's Sabre, kind of a boring technology where you don't, again, don't have underground, shafts or anything like that where people are exposed. So there's ways of addressing it, and certainly it hasn't been done too many times, but there are people, the Oranos, the Canadans of the world, that have had to deal with these issues, and they certainly can do safely.
Great.
So yeah, and just to finish up on hurricane zone, this is just really gives you kind of a good sense, just in general, just by the color coding of where the highest grade portions of the ore body are. And so this is the heart of the hurricane zone, right on the border of another property. So you can see that the red area that's obviously got the highest grade uranium is bordering on another property called the Dawn Lake joint venture with Cameco and Orano. There's not a lot of work going on that side at the moment, as you can imagine. I'm sure this has raised interest because it's very clear that there's some overlap into that area, and we'll certainly, I'm sure, have discussions over time on what they're doing on that side of the property. But for us, we're looking to there's still some great holes. If you look to the bottom, hole number 77, 2.6% uranium at 8 meters is really on the south end of that deposit. So when we go back up there this summer, which is the plan, we'll continue to look to the south and even to the north on some of the prospectivity for, how much bigger or what, this ore body, could look like. What are the boundaries of it? So there's still a lot of work to be done to kind of determine on our side of that border what this, ore body's future, looks like. So, sorry, go ahead, Joachim.
As I'm just reading here, 40 kilometers from Orano's McLean Lake Mill. Let's assume, just really hypothetically, I know for the regulators, forward-looking statement, but a future question. Let's assume you bring this, you or with partners, you bring this into production. Would it be of help, or let's say a big advantage, to have McLean Lake Mill just so close by? Could you use that if possible? Yeah,
I mean, it's a huge potential advantage. Yeah, certainly need to have those discussions with them. But yeah, it's huge because it's a very viable mine in 40 kilometers in northern Saskatchewan. There's even roads up there is like nothing. That's really incredible to have an ore body that close to an existing mill. Cigar Lake is milled 100% at McLean Lake. Obviously, Cigar is not operating right now, but when it is operating, it's 18 million pounds a year in a mill that actually has capacity for 24 million. So, Orano also has an interest in keeping that mill fed and operating, and so they're, I think it's fair to say they're actively looking for ore bodies to feed that, not just today to expand that capacity, but in the future. So yeah, no, it's very strategic, in fact, and so it's not just the power and the land, the roads up in that part of the eastern Athabasca. It's actually the mill, which is really a strategic advantage.
Great.
Yeah, and this is just quickly to show, I talked about, we'll do some work to the north and the south of Hurricane. Hurricane's really, you can see it completely under that, just that star. So it's a very small piece of the property that we have in that Larocque East. And you can see the trend, that goes out to the east, and that's it's another 15 kilometers of what seems to be some very prospective trend in that area. So part of our summer program that we're developing and haven't confirmed it yet. We're still working on plans and budgets, but the plan is to do some of that more exploratory out to the east and explore that trend and see what we find out there. So the team is very excited about that part of the program as well. Mm-hmm. This is just a kind of a schematic to give folks a sense of hurricane's actually at 325 meters, which in the Athabasca is really good depth. It's not out of the realm of being uneconomic in any way. It's really quite shallow compared to a lot of the best mines and ore bodies in the region, including Cigar and MacArthur, as you can see, and even Phoenix, which is under development. So that's a real advantage. You can find high grade uranium in the basin, but there's a lot of advantages here. We're not under any lakes. It's the ground surface the ground on the surface is easily accessible, and at 325 meters, it really makes it quite feasible for a lot of different approaches to eventually and someday mining this ore body. That's probably all I'll say. Again, just recognizing time, Jochen, but just on the corporate overview of the company, just to give folks a sense. I mean, this chart just gives you a good indication of sort of what the team, Craig and the previously and the existing team in place right now have accomplished. Because a year ago we were trading at maybe 20-30 cents. We're now trading mid $2.50 to upwards almost to $3 a share, and it's really finding the hurricane zone and finding that deposit has really been a company maker. So it's really changed the way we're looking at things, the approach we're planning to take with the company, and really giving us a lot of ability, especially in this market, as people are getting excited about the uranium market. It's going to give us, I think, a lot of ability to do some exciting things and not just develop and look at expanding on the hurricane zone, but other things as well, and give us a lot of ability to do that. So
as I see, Orano is a 2% shareholder.
They are. That's right.
Orano, correct. Yeah, so that's really interesting. We were just talking about the McLean Lake mill.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, so they have some vested interest in. They certainly haven't been sorry to see the value in IsoEnergy go up exponentially over the year, and as you can see, Cameco is also a 4% owner. So
exactly,
they've got a little vested interest. Obviously, our biggest shareholder remains NexGen, and they're the majority shareholder of the company. So it's actually puts ISO in an incredible spot to have that kind of support, because I can tell you they're very, they're not just a majority shareholder, they're an interested and supportive shareholder that loves what's happening with the company and wants to see it, do more and bigger things. So that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're sitting on over $14 million in cash, which really, it'll depend a little bit on the drill programs the exploration guys want to do over summer and even into next winter. But really, we're in good financial shape to do all that work, for the next year. And as you know, there's a lot of interest in the market right now. So there's a lot of people raising money, and we're certainly not planning anything, but it's good to know that there's a lot of financial support out there for the industry and for this type of work. Mm-hmm. Just quickly, like I said before, I won't go into it, but we've got a great team in place. Just a lot of people with a lot of expertise, not just in uranium, but in operating companies and junior mining companies. And so very fortunate to have a solid team in place. And
Tim, just one question. Can you give us a little bit more on your background, please? Because we know everybody else, of course, but you are new to the team, and so maybe you can give us a bit of your background, because I see 20 years with Cameco, for example.
Yeah. I was just counting it the other day, and so I've been in the industry, the uranium nuclear industry, for right around 27 years, which it flies by. But 23 of that was with Cameco. I spent a long time, very fortunate to have a great career at Cameco. started, marketing administration and spent the last 7 years as the VP of marketing here in Saskatoon at the corporate office. So intermingled in that, I did have a stretch for a number of years working in corporate development at a time when Cameco was really looking to expand. They had a program in place called W. We were looking to double production, when the market was looking a little better, early 2000s. And so my experience working with geologists and working on, looking at ore bodies and mining companies comes from that experience working with, we had a really great team of geologists in place and a great corporate development sort of financial team in place that really we were scouring the globe. We were looking, so when Cameco picked up its GoviEx asset and we were, bought the Kintyre and Yeelirrie assets in Australia. And so, great experience with Cameco. I left there in 2017 and shortly after joined Denison Mines as they're starting to develop the Wheeler project. It was a really interesting time to join them and start to help them on the commercial side, as they started to explore also in situ recovery in the basin, which is really innovative. And along with that, they also had a need for someone to be their chief commercial person at Uranium Participation Corp, which you might be familiar is the biggest uranium holding fund effectively in the world. So it was a lot of fun managing that for 2.5 years. And then when ISO approached me to come on as CEO, it was just something. I certainly wasn't looking to leave Denison, and I loved every minute being there, but it's sort of one of those opportunities you can't say no to. It was just a great company at a really amazing, I think, juncture in the uranium market and the nuclear industry. So yeah, very happy.
Yeah, and if we look at your drill results, sometimes I have the feeling too good to be true.
Yeah, well, let's not worry too much about that. We as a nuclear industry, we have to make sure we don't screw up. There's always been issues, but I think we've got our stuff together, and I think the fundamentals are the fundamentals. You can't argue with them. It looks, we look poised to go into a really interesting, period, not just a couple of years, but I think interesting, decade and decades ahead in this industry.
Yeah. That's right.
I'll just, close off the board of directors, obviously a ton of experience there, which is great. We've got, Lee Currier is our chairman, who's of course also the CEO of NexGen, and we bring with them, Trevor, Richard, and Chris also act on the board of NexGen. So ton of experience with a company that's had enormous success. And Craig Perry's there as a director, and it was, it's great that Craig was able and willing to stay on as a director. It just brings some continuity, and obviously for me, it's a great great resource to tap into for just for some historical continuity in the company. So great board to work with, very supportive, and just to highlight just a couple of things right at the end, just to bring it together, Jochen. I mean, the discovery of Hurricane came, after some very strategic steps were taken in this down market, and the result and the reward is that we're the only junior with a new high grade uranium discovery, and the timing, again, as we've talked about, couldn't be better. The fundamentals have never, I don't think, have really ever looked better, and it's really supported by a sentiment in the industry that's quite new, or at least the strength of it is new, on how important nuclear is to the climate change narrative and ESG investing. And so I think that's incredibly important. The team, like I said, lots of experience and had a lot of success. So they're demonstrating that every day. And then, you talk about location as, is location important? And I think geopolitically, Saskatchewan, couldn't look any better. We're just recently ranked just this year by the Mining Journal, Risk Report, and Fraser's Institute as, the number 1 and number 3 mining jurisdictions in the world, respectively. So, I mean, to have the ore body we do and to have some of the properties we do in that jurisdiction, I think is just terrific. And then, of course, just tightly held with NexGen, with their majority interest, provides us a really great support system behind the company. So, yeah, everything's looking, very positive ahead for IsoEnergy, Jochen.
Absolutely. That's correct. I see it the same way, to be honest. And yeah, thank you very much for a great presentation, Tim. And as you said, Craig and the team did really the things absolutely right, and everything looks great. Now up to you to really move that forward. And we look, of course, forward to your next drill results, by the way. When do you think we can expect some more drill results?
Yeah, so I should maybe share with folks, like we did take a pause over the winter, and for those that don't know, as far as COVID is related, in Saskatchewan, some of the hardest hit areas were our northern communities. They're Indigenous communities up in northern Saskatchewan where that drilling takes place. And back in December, the government here, asked, they put out a strong recommendation that people don't do any work or go up into those areas if they don't have to. So we really tried to respect that recommendation, and also really respect the communities that we're trying to partner with in northern Saskatchewan. It was really important for us not to be, the ones, even as many safety precautions we take, just by some chance be the ones that bring something up north. So we took a pause. We didn't do any drilling this winter, but we're very actively putting together our summer program, which we've got a new budget that we're going to take to the board within the next couple of weeks, and also that drill program. So we hope to be back up there, midsummer, drilling, July, August, September, maybe even October, depending on the weather, and either putting out some results through that drill program, but very shortly after that. For sure. So bear with us through mid to late summer, and we'll be coming out with new results.
Fantastic. Super. That was a great final sentence. Thank you very much, as we are already over half an hour, but
Okay.
so much information. We need to have that for sure. Great company, great success. Thanks for this. I wish you happy Easter. All the best. And talk to you soon, I would say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, happy Easter to you and all your followers. Thanks very much, Joachim. Appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, Tim. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Tim Gabruch, the new CEO of IsoEnergy, and you heard it. Things are still, extremely well, of course. Highest intercepts and highest grades in the industry. Sometimes I would say even ever found. And with strong shareholdership, $14 million in the bank. And also the drills will turn from summer onwards. And I think this is also the right thing with COVID-19 related, to respect the indigenous people there and not to bring them into any danger situation. I think that's the right way how you should treat, of course, the people and also the environment. And the company is perfectly set up for this uranium bull market. And I have a very good feeling that this has started now, because we see rising imbalances in supply and demand, rising deficits, and also from the contract side, the utilities are getting more and more in the defensive situation. So they have to contract because they have to run their nuclear power plants. And this is a great situation. The last time we had it in 2005 to 2007. And for those who were already in the market like me, remember that we had a lot of companies who went up by 10 and 20 times because uranium went from something like $15 up to $140. And I wouldn't say that this is the same type of price rising this time, but I could easily imagine uranium go to $60, $70 or maybe a little bit more. And then we have a complete new situation in this really interesting market. Uranium is shiny. Uranium market is hot. I would suggest you check it out. Check out IsoEnergy. Fantastic company. Thanks for watching us, and happy Easter to all of you. Bye-bye from Switzerland.